and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you are returning, I really do appreciate it. If you are new, please don't forget to do all the likes below, subscribe, like, comment, also share the video and turn on your bell so that you do get notified every time I drop a new video. And as you can see below, today I will be talking about Charmaine Phillips and Pieter Grundlingh, who are South Africa's very own Bonnie and Clyde. So I do have more like personal information on Charmaine than on Pieter, which I personally prefer because I am more interested in the female offender than the male offender. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So Charmaine was born in Orange in the Free State in 1963, and she was basically born in a violent family. You know, at some point her alcoholic mother tried murdering the dad, who was a heavy dagga smoker. So the environment just wasn't nice. So a year after that incident, Charmaine and her 6 siblings were actually taken away from the home, and they were put in like different homes, obviously. And at some stage her father was put into a hospital for psychotic disorder, and the mother was actually murdered by a lover of hers, who hit her with a bottle over her head. So anyway, at the age of 15, Charmaine runs away from the home that they were living in. At 16, she gives birth to her first child. Now, she gets married to a man, and you know, she was hoping that this relationship, this marriage will save her, you know, that finally she'll have stability, she'll, yeah, like her life will just go right from here on. And that didn't happen because, you know, the dude was working, I think, away from home, so the relationship really wasn't stable and stuff. So anyway, Charmaine's friends would describe her as somebody who is a rebel, and she would do anything to get attention. So at this point, she decides to go to the streets, and this is when she met Pieter. Pieter was actually in jail at like in his background. He actually went to jail for theft and fraud, and when he met Charmaine, he had just gotten bail on an arms charge, and they met each other in the December of 1981. So they met in Pietermaritzburg, and at this time Charmaine is a prostitute, and she doesn't have her firstborn anymore because he was taken away from her just because of, you know, the circumstances and the life that she was living. So anyway, so Charmaine and Pieter actually have a child together. They like in a relationship. They have a child together, and for some reason they decided to team up and go on this apparent killing spree, because the killing spree actually happened from Durban to Joburg, and their child was actually with them when they were committing all these crimes. And at some of these scenes, the child was actually used to lure in the victim. So they actually went on a 17-day blood-soaked killing spree, and they were robbing people at gunpoint, and they killed 4 men. So the first victim was on June the 14th. His name was Gerald Meyer, and he was 34, and he was killed in Umhloti, and his body was actually found like on a dusty road near Verulam. The second victim was 5 days later, June 19th. His name was Vernon Swart, and he was actually 28 at the time, and he apparently was killed because he urinated in front of Charmaine. And some sources say that Charmaine mentioned that he was killed because he was just blabbering, you know, he was just annoying, like talking a lot, and he was actually tied to a tree before being shot. The third victim was June the 25th, and his name was Barron Kravenstein, and he was 31 and found at the Kinross Dam, on the roadside of the Kinross Dam. And the last victim was June 30th, and his name was Martin Mufosi, and he was found shot dead near Bloemfontein. At this point, they've killed 4 men, and there's a massive manhunt for them. So eventually, after 3 weeks, they are arrested, After 3 years of being on the run, they are arrested in Vereniging. And while they're arrested, obviously they get asked, why did you kill this man and whatnot? And apparently Charmaine had said that it's because they had gotten fresh with her. They got slick, So yeah, the trial ran for 3 weeks at the Pietermaritzburg Supreme Court, and actually a source says that they were very much in love, when they saw each other, their eyes lit up, they passed each other notes, they were very much still into each other at that time. So Charmaine actually went for psychiatric observation, and the psychiatrist actually says that Charmaine's childhood, Charmaine's background actually had such a massive impact on her, because her personal relationships suffer because she doesn't have the empathy, she doesn't have the skills, to maintain a relationship or to have a proper relationship. So anyway, when it came to confession time, Charmaine confessed to killing all the men. And she actually did this because, one, she was 19. So because of her age, she wouldn't get the death penalty. And two, she had 2 children. So because she was the mother, they would be lenient on her. But anyway, and she also did it because if the blame was on her, then Pieter wouldn't get the death sentence. But unfortunately for them, Pieter is actually sentenced to death. They pleaded not guilty to 6 counts of murder, robbery, and fraud. But yeah, they were actually convicted for all the charges. And Pieter was actually hung on the 30th of July 1985, which is like 2 years later, at the Pretoria Central Prison. And Charmaine, who was 19 at the time, received 4 life sentences. And after serving 20 years of her sentence, Charmaine was actually paroled in 2004. So there was actually a letter that was found, apparently back in the day, a confession by Pieter, I guess before he was hung or executed. So I guess this letter was important because apparently the letter wasn't brought forth at the time or something like that. So I guess this letter was important if it was gonna exonerate Charmaine, because remember now at this point they are a team, so they are now blamed equally, they are seen as the same thing. So I think the purpose of this letter was to release Charmaine off of this stigma or this reputation. So I guess in the letter Pieter confesses to everything, so he takes the blame, so that I don't know because she was only 19 at the time, so we don't know if she was impressionable, if she to what extent her role was in the killings. So I think the purpose of the letter was just to exonerate her and to give her maybe a more lenient sentence. But yeah, the other thing that I wanted to mention with this particular case is the intergenerational criminality, because Charmaine grew up in a home that wasn't very nice, wasn't very conducive for a child to grow up in, and she had her own children, and she lost one to the system, and the other one, the one who was present at these crime spree, he actually grew up to be involved in crime and drugs. So yeah, and apparently one of Charmaine's brothers at some point was also involved in crime. So yeah, there's a lot of intergenerational criminality happening, I think, which makes sense because if you don't grow up without parents, or you know who your parents are, you grew up to know who your parents are. My parents are the Bonnie and Clyde of South Africa, and we don't know what kind of environment the child also grew up in. But it's quite interesting. Our childhoods they play a very vital role. Not that it's an excuse, not that people grow up in messy situation and become good people, but some don't. And yeah, so the point is, our childhoods do have a very strong influence on who we become. Our parents play a very big role. That's why they're parents, you know. They are there to guide and protect, and yeah, so when they are not there, you know, what are the chances? So yeah, that is the story of the South African Bonnie and Clyde. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I enjoyed it a lot. And also there's a movie called Durban Poison. Yeah, Durban Poison. Apparently it depicts the life of Charmaine and Pieter. So yeah, if you've seen it, maybe comment down below if you know if my story makes sense with the storyline of the movie. Yeah, so if you haven't checked that out, this is the end of this episode. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Yeah, like I said, I think I have like 2 more weeks of spree killers. So if you have a spree killer in mind, spree killer couple, then you're more than welcome to comment in the comment section. Yeah, if you want to hear about a particular couple or a particular person. Thank you guys for being here, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.